To this edition of Meet America. It is November 30th, 2014, and we're in front of Cesar Chavez Library in Salinas. And the students are organizing a march because they want justice. These are the missing students, and they want to know where they are. And where's the justice? It's a really good question.
Okay, my name is Alejandro, and I'm here to support these youngsters in their efforts to bring attention to the 43 students that were abducted in Mexico. And actually, it's been said that they were all found and they were murdered and so much, but there's no actual evidence because the forensic evidence turned out to be false. Okay, so I'm here to support these kids who are who actually bringing attention to this crime that has been committed in Mexico. And
what are they doing in Mexico about it?
Actually, very little. The president of Mexico doesn't seem to be very enthused about all the publicity that it's getting. The police have been indicted. The mayor has been apprehended as far as. And I think some abduction charges have been placed against him. But what these kids, they don't want it to die off. They want the American public and the public in general worldwide to not let this go away.
So how do the American people, what can we do?
Well, we can put pressure on our legislators.
To do what?
To go down to Mexico, to send our ambassador, or to have our ambassador in Mexico to get over there and make sure that all the legalese and all that can be done to get these kids back or get a resolution to it happen. Justice.
I see.
What these kids are seeking justice. They're not seeking, don't necessarily mean that you're going to get them back, but they want justice. They want an explanation.
I see.
They want the parents to have closure.
And these are kids that were coming to America?
No, they were students. They were going to college there. They were all college students. Most of them were activists.
Interesting.
Okay, so that's part of the story.
Right.
Activism is why they were abducted.
Yeah, I see. Okay. And what kind of activism were they doing? Just all kinds of...
Yeah, stuff, Mexican stuff that had to do
human rights, things
rights,
like,
actually, that kind of thing.
All right, what would you like to say here?
They were not just activists, they were normalistas. These are indigenous children from indigenous tribes that do not even speak Spanish.
Right.
They have a training college that they went to in order to be trained so they could go back to their villages and teach their people how to read and write. They have always been left-oriented, and I think it's the press, the Mexican press especially, and the American media has picked up on that, tries to say, well, they got it's gang activity, it's cartel activity, it's drug cartels, but this is not what it's about.
I see. So they're trying to intermingle that so they keep the American public quiet.
So that, well, they deserved what they got. They shouldn't have been activists. They shouldn't have made trouble. They should have just read their books. But there's more to it. It's a concerted effort by the government in Mexico, supported by the U.S. government, to stifle.
Well, they want we want their resources.
We want their resources.
We're tearing down the jungles and taking all their places, and that's what's going on.
That is what's going on. And then it's connected too with the president of Mexico is trying to revamp the education system in Mexico, try to control who can teach and who cannot. Many of the teachers tend to be left-leaning. Would be one way to get rid of them. Also, the materials they can read in their schools. The Mexican history or a revised history. and they want to force all students in Mexico to learn English and computer science, computer skills.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Which makes good sense in the urbanized communities. These normalistas, however, come from places that they do not even speak Spanish.
Well, they want to keep their indigenous lifestyle,
Right.
and
This is what
they're
they
the only
want.
ones that are going
Right.
to keep the medicines and the herbs and the forests and the lungs of our
Correct.
planet
Correct.
alive, and the robotic, what I call the new robotic life form,
Right.
is sort of taking over.
And by
Yeah.
trying to force them to learn English, it makes no sense. If
No.
they can't even speak Spanish, they have no
Right.
interest. They will never encounter an American where
Yeah.
they live.
Yeah.
And to try to force them to do computer skills makes no
Right.
sense because their classrooms do not have electricity.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
So these are the students that have disappeared in the universities in Mexico, indigenous students from the jungles, probably trying to protect their environment and trying to get educated so they can protect their world, and they're getting abducted because we want their resources. We want their trees, oil, gas. We want it all. And we all use it. So if we can use less of it and demand that these people are found and allowed to learn what they need to learn, maybe we can straighten out this world.
I'm not gonna speak for an interview. I'm just gonna say, what's occurring. I'm a current student at CSUMB, Monterey Bay. I just came to the library to work on a project, in a presentation, but I came up with this. Oh well, I found this was going on.
Yeah.
And which I know about what occurred in Mexico.
Right.
And actually I have a presentation today about general education requirements in CSUMB, and many people are saying it's a waste of time and we don't need them, it's a waste of money. We should instead be taking classes for majors. And my argument would be we need them because we get educated, and by education we get power. So instead of working in my presentation, I came here and I'm gonna support this because I believe that this is education. And I'm also gonna present to my class what did I do instead of working with my presentation. And I'm just gonna say, that many students out there think that education is easy for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's not, because people from other countries, they have to do this in order to get it. And right here is so accessible, and many people are saying that it's a waste of time and a waste of money. And I don't think that. I think it's really the opposite. It's really power. Education is power.
I see. So do you think that with the kind of education you want to get, you're getting?
I am. I am.
What do you want to do with your education?
I want to be a plant pathologist and work right here in the fields in Salinas community. My parents are field workers. Recently I'm going to start an internship at the USDA with Dr. Carol Lee working at the USDA. So I am getting the education because this country is helping my parents and helping many of us achieve what we want. But honestly, I see that the other governments aren't doing that, and we want them to do that, because if they do that, people won't be getting out of their countries. I was thinking some weeks ago about the violence going in Mexico, and I was thinking if the government would do that, my parents wouldn't have to come here. I wouldn't have to come here, and I wouldn't have to miss my grandfather. He died. My parents would be there when he died. Many things I would. But because of the corruption and the poverty and everything that's going on in Mexico, people are starting to go to other countries to find jobs. And I understand that many people from this country, they don't want people, because I understand that more people means probably they're going to think it's going to be bad for us. But I understand that. But I think we can change that. We're gonna be better in the other countries like in Mexico, and we want that right now. We want that to change. We're tired.
Well, you know, it's just as corrupt here. Our government is totally inundated with Monsanto, who's destroying our food supply with genetically modified organisms. Gene splicing, these organisms aren't even recognized by our body as a natural food.
That's so true.
And,
there's still a lot of things to change, but I see that especially in monitoring, there's a lot of issues, environmental issues, and people are taking care of them. They're fighting, and that's what we need to do as Mexicans and or people from other cultures.
Yeah. And I think it's important to stay in Mexico and change it there, because a lot of us are going to other countries too, because we can't get the justice. Even though we are trying to change it, we can't get the change that we want, because the ones in power that like Monsanto, and for instance, I don't know if you know who Monsanto is, do you? Monsanto is the one that they're a chemical company, one of the largest in the world. They made Agent Orange that is now giving so much trouble to all the veterans from Vietnam, and they brought us Roundup, all the things that Cesar Chavez fought against, the poisoning of our environment, and now they're changing our food, and with gene splicing and putting spider genes into goats, so that the goat milk will render spider-like threads to make their Kevlar suits for policemen, when they shoot bullets, it won't hurt them, that kind of thing. So they're doing these things that are very, very dangerous, and nature doesn't recognize them as a natural food. And so it's destroying our gut. It's destroying our bodies and bringing ill health and allergens and all that. Well, people like myself try to fight it, but the California Organic Growers, CCOF, California Certified Organic Farmers, they're an agency that's supposed to oversee and make sure that our produce is organic and that they're not cheating. Well, I can't get them interested in if genetically modified foods are coming into this county and contaminating our organic produce and our commercial produce, because by law you can't have the label organic if you have genetically modified organisms in your food. Well, I can't get any help. So do I want to run to another country where I think I can get help, like Europe, where they don't allow GMOs, or do I stay here and fight? And I think that's an important message for all of us, that in Mexico you've got to have the Mexicans fighting in their country, and I've got to have people like myself and yourself in this country fighting for the justice here, because it's corrupt all over.
Yeah, I do think that about the topic, I'm not really aware of that, so I cannot say my opinion about it. I'll need to do research about it first. But what you're saying is true. If you want to fight against something, you have to first, I would say, make everybody aware, and that's what we're doing.
That's right.
Awareness. Because I didn't know about the topic that you're mentioning. I'm starting to be a scientist.
Plantologist.
I'm taking genetics.
So I'm going to give you that website so you can look at that, and maybe you'll be able to do some good.
Maybe I'll be supporting too, because I'm working with a bioreactor in order to decrease the pollution of nitrates in the agriculture industry here in this area. So I'm really interested in the environmental issues, but this as well.
Absolutely, it all ties in.
Yeah.
My name is Juan Carlos.
Hi, Juan Carlos. Tell us what you're here to try to bring to public notice.
I like to bring to public notice awareness about what is going on at international borders, and we want to support Ayotzinapa and coming together so we can realize how important it is for us to become aware that these things are happening, so we can create more peace.
I see. And so you have an art collective and graffiti. You say that your message is being spread through graffiti. Is that one of the ways?
that's one medium that we use. It is a cohort of urban and graffiti artists, and we work with the city of Salinas, and we work with institutions and organizations to open safe spaces for artists in general, just for everyone to express themselves, and to, most importantly, to decriminalize creative expression. There's too many young people in Salinas that could benefit from having art centers and from having a space where they can creatively express themselves, but we're not there yet, so we want to work with everyone.
I see. And how is the local government, how are the supervisors and the police and everyone, how are they responding to your message so far, do you think?
So far, we are in the process of creating a better relationship with them. I feel that there's both sides need to be educated on the issues that we are concerned about. I am concerned about the Salinas PD myself, because a lot of the young artists that I mentor have been oppressed and have been in incidents where we have been harassed by cops. So I am concerned about that. My message to them is that we want to work together. We want to make Salinas a safe space for everyone.
Okay, are they worried because these artists perhaps are putting their graffiti on, buildings where they shouldn't, and that kind of thing that would cause duress?
At this point, it is, have I experienced it, is that it's just a targeting young people, I think, just whether they're graffiti artists or not.
And how do they do that? Give me an example.
For example, I was at an event the day of Klaus Oldenburg, famous iconic artist. He came to Salinas to re-announce his 3 Hats in the Street stages, and during that event we did a live art event for him, and then later that day we convened at a place around the city, and then suddenly there was a cop who showed up, and he said that there was something going on, some graffiti or something called, and then suddenly we saw a lot of cops around us, and we were just there waiting for our mentors to come, and they were not respecting us, they were not keeping us safe.
Okay,
it was
so now your artists, they aren't defacing buildings or things like that, are they? Because I think that's the problem, is it's like you come home and there your house is covered with graffiti, and the house is covered with graffiti. You wouldn't be, if it was your own house, you wouldn't be real pleased with it. So how are you addressing that problem with your artists?
I always tell my artists to respect. I think respect has to be, and it's a core value of the Urban Arts Collaborative, respecting each other and respecting themselves and respecting their property and everything around them. I don't necessarily think that the artists that I mentor are doing that. I know that exists, but I think let's go to the root of the cause. There's not enough places where young people can create. You can go over there a block away and you can find 2 liquor stores, and if you go that way you find the same thing, or you find McDonald's, or that's what you find. You don't find any cultural center. This is the only place we have. So I would say let's work together so we can prevent young people from going to jail for such a thing.
Yeah, so in other words, covering these bare spaces with graffiti that is acceptable to the majority of people, right?
I would say let young people express themselves with the medium that they choose, as long as it's in a respectful way and it's in a place that they create. If there are places for them to create, they wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, so in other words, they create on a canvas, or a banner?
Create on a canvas. They can also work with businesses, so they can allow them to paint their walls every 3 months, every 6 months. They can also, the city can create a program where they can utilize some of their
Yes, go on.
so they can have a more meaningful place where young people can convene and can create.
I see.
Then we don't have those things going on.
Right.
I'm an artist myself, and I think whenever people want to express themselves, there's different ways.
That's right.
And I think that's a way for them to express themselves. I don't think it's wrong. I just think there's a place for that.
Absolutely.
There's a channel of
yeah,
communication.
and if there's an ugly old liquor store and an ugly old, in my opinion, McDonald's and all that, why can't we decorate it a little more,
yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so
okay,
much.
all right. How does people get a hold of you if they want to? You're at the Cesar Chavez Library most days?
I'm most of the days I'm at the Cesar Chavez Library, but I work throughout the city, and they can also get a hold of me when I do events. We usually do events every month. I'm also on Facebook, JC Gonzalez, but we also have a page on Facebook called the Urban Arts Collaborative. Nature is art, art is healing.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very, very much.
My name is Beatriz Trujillo, and this is kind of where I feel part of, and this is something that I've been wanting to do. This is the action that I think has to get the message across, because one of my main concerns after all the reforms that Peña Nieto was making was, well, he's selling the natural resources in Mexico, so what else does he have to sell down? And we were thinking, like, what about intellectual resources, which are the students? And then we think about it, because I have all of my friends, we migrated from Mexico at an age where we can still remember.
Yes.
At an age when we still remember school in Mexico. And then I think about it, and it's like, okay, I also live my country. So what's happening to those students who actually graduate from college in Mexico, who make it through? They leave the country. And what's happening to those who are studying? They disappear.
Is that what's happening? They're disappearing.
That's what's happening.
Oh,
so
my God.
What is the country going to go with that? And
it looks like they're going to have a little speech here, so should we wait or just continue?
they're going to have a performance, so maybe we can look at the performance and then continue.
Okay, very good, very good. But keep talking until they start.
Okay, so what I was saying is the intellectual resources that Mexico has disappearing, which are these future teachers. And not only teachers as teachers, but rural teachers, which is even a harder task to accomplish, because you're sent to places where you don't have the resources, the materials that other teachers have available to teach, the technology to teach. And most of these people were bilingual. They were able to speak another language besides Spanish. And those are the teachers that we need for those indigenous communities.
Yes, right, absolutely. Well, they're removing the indigenous people that know how to take care of the forest so we can take their resources. So that's what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. Good luck. We'll see.
Thank you.
Keep trying. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
Bringing awareness.
Thanks.
Ayotzinapa, Salinas está contigo. Ayotzinapa, Salinas está contigo. Ayotzinapa, Salinas está contigo. Ayotzinapa, Salinas está contigo. Vamos a comenzar a marchar en unos próximos minutos. Por favor, se quieren unir a nosotros.
You are watching a protest of Salinas students protesting the disappearances of college students in Mexico, indigenous to their forests, and they're disappearing. They're coming to the colleges to learn how to better protect their indigenous resources, and the activist ones are disappearing, and they're asking our government to work more closely with the Mexican government to find out where these people are and stop these disappearances.
Estamos aquí porque los estudiantes de Ayotzinapa necesitan justicia, y aquí estamos ahorita para presentar nuestro apoyo para ellos. Y ahorita estos estudiantes, las personas que están acá enfrente, están representando a los estudiantes que no están presentes en la ciudad en México. Porque el gobierno no ha mandado apoyo para encontrarlos. Y acá podemos ver que Peña Nieto tiene el rope, el lazo que lo tiene amarrado. So here we have the students of Ayotzinapa held by a rope that Peña Nieto, the president of the Mexican government, is holding. These students are missing from the society that Mexico has, from Mexican society. So We're here, we are representing them, and we are remembering them, and we are here to demand justice and to have them found and brought back. Let's have a moment of silence for those students who are now not here with us.
The foal was on its way to slaughter up in Fallon, Nevada, where they put them in feedlots. They buy them from the auctions there, the pregnant mares and mares with foals, and they send them up to Canada for slaughter. And Alicia saves as many as she can. Can you believe that this is what humans do to an animal that we owe so much to? Gandhi always said you can judge a nation by the way it treats its animals. And in some ways our nation is very good, but in regards to wild horses and cattle and animals, we're just horrendously horrible. Not all of us. There's people like Alicia and myself and others who care enormously what happens to these wonderful beings that we turned into slaves, and these beings that built this nation with us. So I say shame on us, the U.S., for even allowing this. And we've had a bill in Congress now for 7 years that goes around and around and around and around. It never gets passed to stop horse slaughter and the waste of our tax dollars to inspect horse meat. And a few mean-spirited subhumans, I call them, that are in the Ag Appropriations Department of Congress. They are the ones that are responsible from withholding the SAFE Act, for that's what this particular slaughter bill this year is called, the SAFE Act. Safeguard America's Food Export Act. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with stopping horse slaughter? Because horses should not and cannot be eaten. They should not be eaten because they're our friends. They're our domesticated pets. We don't eat our dogs and cats, and we don't eat our horses. But also, the horses that are used for sport often get injuries, and they have to give them butazol, a painkiller. And butazol has been known to cause a cancer in humans. So it's another reason why we should not be eating horses. Racehorses are given up to 117 drugs during their life in service as racehorses. These are drugs that the FDA has not approved for human consumption. So there's another reason why we don't eat horse meat. But yet, these cattle ranchers who want to get rid of their stock and want to get tax dollars for every horse they breed and can't use and send to auction for slaughter, they get a tax write-off. So they'll breed 50 horses, pull 2 out of the 50 that have good coloring and conformation or promise, and then they'll send the rest to auction where the kill buyers buy them. And then they'll say, well, as a business, I bred 50 and lost all this money and could only keep 5 or 6. And so they get our tax dollars on top of it all. So that's kind of what goes on. And so I hope that you'll contact Congress and your congressperson for what it's worth and say that you don't want your tax dollars going for tax write-offs for breeders who breed too many horses and throw them away. The slaughtering process itself is pretty gruesome because it's very hard to kill a horse properly. They're shying, they're upset, they can smell the blood, they know they're being murdered. One horse was shot with a stun gun about 11 times. You can see it on YouTube. So it's people like Alicia that are remarkable human beings with huge hearts, and luckily they can afford to save these beautiful, beautiful creatures, these beings, these people, the horse people, who have as much right to live as you and I, whether you believe it or not. Oh. Of Meet America. And folks, today I want to talk to you about boycotting McDonald's, Burger King, and Pizza Hut for allowing our hard-working American quarter horses that work on the ranches to be sent to slaughter. What is happening is ranchers have these marvelous quarter horses, and once they go lame or they want to get new ones, they send them to auction, and the kill buyers buy them at the auction, and then they are sent off to slaughter. And boycotting McDonald's and Burger King and Pizza Hut, calling them at these numbers and letting them know that that's what you're doing, is very, very important. There is no voice for the horses but our own. And a lot of other meat companies are guilty of this as well, but those are the 3 big ones that were caught And it's really vital that we do this. And I'm going to read to you the news reports so you understand just what this is about. Thanks for watching. I'm Annie Griffin, your host. This is a report from Animal Angels, an incredible nonprofit organization. These brave women, they go out, and men, they go out and they follow trucks filled with horses right till their slaughtering process, and they film it and they report it, and they're just amazing. So I hope that you'll go to their site, animalangels.org, and support them. And their latest finding is Animal Angels finds evidence of U.S. quarter horses exported to Russia by Lebanese livestock vessel Abu Karim III. For years, Animal Angels has been investigating the export of U.S. horses to Mexico and Canada for slaughter. Documenting the horrors of this predatory industry, our investigators have visited every export facility and border crossing these animals passed through during their last journey, or so we thought. We're going to click here to read more. And so, document reveals Texas horses shipped to Kaliningrad Meat Company. For years, Animal Angels, we've read that part. A recent investigation uncovered startling evidence, including documents from the United States Department of Agriculture, that proves 2,253 cows and horses left the port of Willington, Delaware on July 16, 2014 on the livestock carrier Abdu Karim III. Bills of lading received from the Port of Willington confirmed the distressing information that 168 quarter horse geldings, 1,816 pregnant heifers, and 539 Angus bulls were sold to Russian imports. Can you imagine pregnant heifers being slaughtered? I mean, how can anyone eat this kind of food? Do you know what you're doing, folks? You're eating ground-up babies. No wonder we grind up our own babies, because we become cannibals of the worst kind. That we allow these companies to ship these horses and these heifers that are pregnant and to be slaughtered in some horrible, horrible meat company of conditions of unspeakable horror, cruelty, and torture, unimaginable, and you are eating it. And your cells are reading the cortisone released from the blood and of these animals, the distress signals that they're sending out. No wonder we're a nation sickened to death with all kinds of need to take medications and antidepressants and migraine pills and everything else under the sun, because basically we just aren't meant to cope with that level of adrenaline stress. And that's what's happening. Believe me, that's what's happening. And they're even proving it now. You can go on the web and you can search the latest findings of meat eating, what it does to our bodies in terms of ingesting the cortisol, the stress hormone, from other animals that have been slaughtered, and the way they've been slaughtered, and the pain they've had to endure. So the karma comes back. It comes back, folks, and it causes distress and cancer and every other immune deficiency disease in our own bodies. So that's why it's so important to go vegan. We're going to read more now. The seller, AZTX Cattle Company, is based out of Hereford, Texas. While their website shows a few cattle grazing happily on emerald green pastures, a total of 140,000 animals are kept in barren, dusty pens at the company's two massive feedlots in Hereford and Garden City, Kansas. Their access to any fresh grass as shown on their homepage is non-existent. And as for the horses, you will find no mention of horses on their website whatsoever. So where are these horses being sent to? What is their ultimate fate? The purchaser is Kaliningrad Meats, a meat processing company located in the Russian Federation. Kaliningrad Meats and Bryansk Meats are both divisions of Militorg, the latest and largest pork producer in Russia. Militorg is a huge meat conglomerate which ties to Burger King, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, and other large food companies. They don't list horse meat as a part of their food items anywhere on their site. So what purpose could be behind this and possibly other purchases? What purpose indeed? They want to hide it from you, folks. Now, last year there was a huge scandal where horse meat was found in Burger King and McDonald's in Europe. Now let's go to the transport. Very little is known about the transport and the transport conditions of the animals during this journey. Assuming that these horses and Angus bulls were loaded in Hereford, which the company's website suggests, the animals had to endure a 1,700-mile transport to Willington, Delaware. The chances that the animals made it to Willington in less than 28 hours as required by law are quite slim. These animals, when they're transported, they don't have anywhere to dump them off. There's too many. So they just are in these trucks with no water, no food, no supervision. Horses fall down, the cattle fall down, they're trampled. It is so diabolical. It is so evil. The meat industry is so evil, in my opinion. There's no other word for it. And if you can think that I'm reading this to you and you don't think so, then you have become absolutely blinded. Once their arduous trip ended at the port of Willington, the animals are loaded onto the massive livestock carrier Abdu Karim III. The ship can hold approximately 9,000 head of cattle and is 123 meters long and 20 meters wide. Its sister ship, the Abdu Karim IV, both operated by the Lebanese Khalef shipping line, is slightly smaller. Both used to be standard container ships, but have since been converted to livestock vessels. And there's a picture of it. Both ships are en route between the U.S. and Russia on a regular basis. Between January 2014 and September 2014 alone, 19,779 animals were shipped from the port of Willington. Public documents show that the July 16th shipment left Willington and traveled straight to Balkest, Russia. It arrived on August 1st, 2014, after spending 15 long days at sea. Taking into consideration the amount of water and food each animal needs per day, it is highly questionable that these ships can provide sufficient quantities for 2,523 animals. Inside the ship is a bleak reality. Despite the ship's size, the room allocated for the horses and cattle is small. Horses and cows are squeezed together in holdings that are reminiscent of auction pens, but with even less movement allowed. No natural light reaches most of these pens where the frightened animals will spend the next 2 weeks. And believe me, these animals realize that they are going to their slaughter. They realize that because the treatment of them becomes more and more decadent and cruel and unfeeling. From where they originally originated on the ranches, where they were relatively taken care of. They were in large pastures, they were ridden to herd up the cattle, they were fed on regular basis, and they were treated with decency and kindness for the most part. And then all of a sudden they're cattle prodded with electric prods, and they're screamed at, and they're crammed into tiny quarters, and they know it can't be much better because horses are incredibly intelligent. Despite what us simpleton and not very intelligent humans for the most part believe, horses are far more intelligent than we can imagine. So they know something horrible is happening to them. Another major concern is the waste disposal. Cows produce an estimated 145 pounds of waste per day. Livestock vessels are equipped with large tanks capable of holding only a certain amount of manure and urine. Once the tank is full, the contents are discharged into the ocean. And now scientists have found, and I'm not reading from this, but this is just an afterthought, are discharged into the ocean. The number one cause of algae blooms, the deadly algae blooms, is fertilizer, urine from feces. So you can look up that online as well and get educated about what's that doing to the ocean. And all this because you want a McDonald's burger, you want a Burger King, you want to eat steak, and that's what's happening. You see, we are killing ourselves and our planet with this absolute evil habit of eating meat. So I'm asking every one of you, please stop eating meat. Go vegan. It'll unclog your arteries, it'll make you think clearer, you'll become a better person, you'll make a better future for your children, you'll stop killing the ocean with the urine runoff and the fertilizer runoff. There's so many perks, and you won't be torturing the animals anymore. So, once the tank is full, contents are discharged into the ocean. However, once the ship gets close to the European coastline, environmental laws prohibit further manure disposal. It is questionable if the storage tank on the ship is capable of holding all the waste for the remainder of the journey, or if the manure is left in the pens or illegally dumped along the shorelines. Should any of the animals become injured or need medical aid, there is rarely a veterinarian on board. The horses and cattle are likely left to suffer with their ailments and injuries for days on end. In December 2013 and then again in July 2014, several cow carcasses were found on Danish, Swedish, and German shores. Their bellies had been cut open, their legs were tied, and their ear tags had been removed. The investigating agencies in these countries came to the conclusion that the animals had been dumped from these livestock vessels, further proof of the unlivable, unbelievable, diabolical conditions these animals are subject to on a regular basis. After losing their lives, they are dumped like trash into the Baltic Sea, but only after being mutilated in an attempt to keep their abusers from being identified. Vessel Tracker reported that on the morning of July 31st, 2014, when near Denmark, 3 Syrian crew members of the Abdukarian 3 jumped overboard. 2 of the men reached the Danish coast, where they were detained by police. The 3rd man made it to Helensborg, Sweden, and promptly disappeared. Either they were all planning to get asylum or there was some trouble on board. While not necessarily pertaining to horses or cattle, this speaks to the morale among the crew, which is concerning to us, given that they are in charge of caring for thousands of living sentient beings. If such dissent exists amongst the crew, what concern must they have, or rather not have, for their cargo? Once the animals arrive at the port of destination in Russia, they vanish. It is unknown to which facility they are transported and what exactly happens to them. Animal Angels will continue to investigate to find out more details about this horrific trade and if there are more U.S. companies providing live horses to the Russian Federation. what you can do. Getting this knowledge out to the public is a crucial part of bringing about the change we wish to see. But this is only part of the battle. We also need to band together to call for government intervention. Please contact your representatives and let them know that we will not stand by and watch our animals being shipped to countries where there are few, if any, animal welfare laws. Send an email or make a phone call to your local representatives denouncing the shipment of live animals overseas. It only takes a moment, but the lives you will save are innumerable. And as in the past, we at Animal Angels know we can count on you to speak up for these poor creatures. They need you now more than ever. Boycott McDonald's and Burger King and Pizza Hut, and call them and let them know why you're boycotting them. We're going to make a call right now. The number on the screen. I hope you will take the time to call all three and be sure not to give them your money, because that's the key. Every time you give them money, you make them richer, and then they can afford to ship these horses to slaughter, and it's morally wrong. And it's also wrong because horses have many, many drugs in them that are not FDA approved. And the butazol that horses are given for pain medication have been proven to cause cancer, a very rare type of cancer in human beings. So you see, folks, how the karma always seems to come back to us. It just does.
The experts say the discovery of horse meat masquerading as beef in some Findus lasagnas poses no immediate human health risk. British firms have been told to test all their processed beef products for traces of horse meat or pork within a week, but no one is testing for traces of other species such as cat, rat or dog. The police are now involved investigating whether the horse meat got into products through gross negligence or through criminal action. Our first report tonight comes from our business correspondent, Sarah Smith.
If you're just about to pop your dinner in the microwave, don't be put off by the news tonight. That's the official government advice. They say we should keep on eating processed beef, even though they don't actually know what's on our plates. Millions of ready meals have already been withdrawn, and the government's ordered tests on every processed beef product in the country. But they say we should tuck in until we get the results next week.
There's no reason to believe that any frozen food currently on sale is unsafe or a danger to health, and I think it's very important we make that point. This is not so much about safety, it is about food labelling, proper retailing, proper information, and frankly it's also about customers being let down.
Let down? Customers feel a lot worse than that.
I think it's disgusting, because if I'm going into a supermarket and I'm thinking that I'm buying beef when really I'm buying horse meat, it's not on really.
You expect it to be 100% beef. They advertise it as 100% beef. It even says it on the box, but it's not what you're going to get.
Findus are still boasting on their website they use only the best ingredients. They also say they're sorry they've let people down. But they don't apologise for how long it took them to tell customers there was a problem. Only Findus macaroni cheese here, but it could have been beef lasagna, because the company started telling supermarkets on Monday to remove beef lasagna from their shelves. They did not necessarily tell small shops like this to do the same. In fact, they've been rather slow at letting everybody know what's been going on. The company knew there was a problem with contaminated meat on Saturday. They informed the big supermarkets on Monday night, but they didn't tell the public. We didn't find out that large quantities of horse meat were in their lasagnas until last night. So how many of us have been eating horse-ridden ready meals since Saturday when the company knew what was going on, but they didn't tell us? Findus's French supplier, Comigel, may have told them that products dating back to the 1st of August have been contaminated. The company would not confirm today if they have been selling horse meat for over 6 months. The problem is not unique to Findus. On the 16th of January, 10 million burgers were taken off the shelves after traces of horse meat were found. By the end of the month, Burger King revealed its burgers were contaminated by horse meat. On the 2nd of February, Findus were notified by their French supplier, Comigel, that their beef lasagna may contain horse meat. On the 6th of February, Tesco and Aldi removed frozen meals that were made by Comigel. And yesterday, the Food Standards Agency revealed some Findus lasagnas contain 60 to 100% horse meat.
The more we test, the more we're finding. So the wider the testing goes, the more products are being found, and that's the worrying part of this.
All food producers and suppliers now have a week to check processed beef for horse meat and traces of pork. They don't have to check for anything else that might have slipped in there, and they don't have to check any other meat products. Findus built a trusted brand over generations, and it will take a long time to win back consumer confidence. This scandal will do great damage to the meat processing industry as a whole. Accusations of criminal involvement in the food we eat are difficult to digest at dinner time. But tonight we can confirm that police have met the Food Standards Agency to discuss the horse meat scandal.
To boycott meat in general, you don't know what you're eating, and it's a known fact that meat inspectors are now coming out and saying that they are watching mad cows, suspected mad cows being ground up into hamburger, because the foremen of these big meat packing companies, they own our government, they own the USDA, they lobby heavily in Washington, and the meat industry is so powerful due to your dollars that they basically are just skirting all the laws that protect us from harmful pathogens. So mad cow is Alzheimer's, in my opinion, and not just mine, but in many, many other scientists as well. And you can look it up. Look it up for yourself, do the research, and you will be astounded and amazed at how contaminated our meat is, and how Alzheimer's victims are being diagnosed as having a severe form of dementia when it's really the prion disease. And the prion disease comes from mad cow eating animals that have been fed animals. And vegetarian animals should not be given any form of meat product. And the food industry does that anyway. And that's why we have the problems that we do. So it is karma, folks. I keep coming back to that, because it is. And so one way or the other, by you harming the animals, you are causing yourself irreparable harm.
Have you ever wondered what happens to rodeo horses after they've been used and abused to the point of exhaustion and breakdown? Where do they go when their bodies and spirits have been so utterly ruined that they simply cannot continue in the Wild West fairy tale that is rodeo? What is the payoff these icons of the American West ultimately receive from the circus cowboys who shock, hit, stab, and otherwise torment them into performing? In our past videos, Shark has exposed that rodeos often shock horses and other animals to make them buck and run. We've exposed that rodeo humane violations, which often violate state humane laws also, are ignored, and humane violators' identities are kept secret. Shark has shown that rodeo associations don't disclose animal injury and death reports. In this video, we'll expose yet another ugly truth about rodeo, perhaps the most horrific truth of all, the partnership between rodeo and horse slaughter. Putting it simply, rodeo stock contractors don't like to lose money. Faced with having to spend money to humanely put a horse down or make money by selling the horse to the horrific slaughter industry, the choice is easy for rodeo people. Few rodeo attendees realize that many of the so-called animal athletes they see bucking in the arena will ultimately be killed and dismembered, and that their body parts will be sent abroad to satisfy foreign cultures who eat horses. For the condemned, the journey to the slaughterhouse holds unspeakable suffering and cruelty. Because they are destined to die, the horses receive minimal care, often well below the pitifully inadequate guidelines set by law.